The annual Morrison family reunion was in full swing. My aunt's sprawling backyard buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses, and the usual parade of white coats, doctors, surgeons, medical directors, the family's pride. Then there was me. Look who finally showed up. My cousin Victoria called out as I stepped onto the patio. She sat with the others, white coats still on like armor, even at a barbecue. Still working at that research lab? I tightened my grip on my wine glass. Yes, I'm at Maxwell Medical Research Center. Victoria sighed. All theatrical disappointment. Such a waste. You were top of your class in med school. Everyone expected you to follow your father into surgery. I kept quiet, remembering the day I left clinical practice to focus on research and hospital operations. You'd think I'd renounced the family name. Remember when she quit her residency? My cousin Michael added, just loud enough for everyone to hear. Guess not everyone's cut out to be a real doctor. The group chuckled. Across the lawn, my father sipped his drink, eyes averted. He hadn't defended me in years. How do you even afford to live where we do? Victoria pressed, her diamond ring flashing as she raised her glass. Research doesn't exactly scream six-figure lifestyle. More polite snickers. I took a slow sip, thinking of the offer letter waiting back at my office, the one that would knock the smug right off their faces. Michael launched into a play-by-play of his latest cardiac surgery. I tuned him out, drifting back to the meeting with the board earlier that week. Unanimous decision. At 32, I was now the youngest chief of operations at Maxwell Medical Center, overseeing everything from budgets to surgical staffing. Including the staff at 3 newly acquired hospitals. Including the one where Victoria and Michael worked. Not that they knew that, not yet. Sarah, Aunt Eleanor's voice sliced through the noise. Be useful and restock the paper plates, will you? I headed toward the kitchen, slipping into the familiar role of family background noise. On the way, I passed Uncle Thomas, chief of surgery at Metropolitan Hospital, murmuring with my father. The merger's next week, he said. Some exec from Maxwell is taking over. They're re-evaluating all surgical privileges. Surely they won't touch ours, my father replied, his voice tight. We have a legacy here. I smiled and kept walking. They had no idea. No idea I'd spent the last 5 years quietly transforming hospital administration from the inside out, making Maxwell Medical Center the most efficient, respected facility in the state. That mysterious, corporate big shot they were whispering about. They were talking about me. My phone buzzed. Assistant, final paperwork signed. Announcement scheduled for Monday. I typed back. Me, perfect. Send surgical privilege review notices first thing Monday. Back on the patio, Victoria's voice rang out again. At least Sarah can help with the plates. She's good at serving others. Laughter followed. Again. I steadied the stack of paper plates in my hands and walked outside, expression calm. Let them laugh. They had no idea Monday was coming for them. As I passed, Michael smirked. Need a hand? I know how challenging basic tasks can be for, research types. I set the plates down, turned slowly, and met his eyes with a smile. No need. I'm actually very good at managing things. I paused. You'll see how good, very soon. He faltered. Just for a second. But I saw it. 2 more days. Monday morning. The sun crept over the skyline, throwing gold against the glass of my new corner office. Maxwell Medical Center. My name gleamed on the polished brass nameplate. Dr. Sarah Morrison, Chief of Operations. James, my assistant, stepped in, a stack of papers in hand. They're all out, he said, grinning. Every surgical privilege notice. Metropolitan included. I nodded. And Victoria? She's called 3 times already. Says it's a family matter. Of course she does. When it's convenient. I turned to my inbox. Dad, we need to talk. Uncle Thomas, what's going on with these reviews? Victoria, whoever you know at Maxwell, use it. This affects family. Michael, I want names. This is outrageous. I let the messages sit. At exactly 10 a.m., James buzzed in again. Dr. Thompson and Dr. Morrison are here. Insisting. Send them in. The door flew open. Victoria stormed in, heels sharp against the tile, Michael right behind her, both still clinging to their white coats like shields. They stopped short. "Sarah?" Victoria blinked. "What are you? Where's the new chief?" I leaned back slightly, hands folded. "You're looking at her." Silence. Michael's jaw moved, but no sound came out. "That's not possible," he said at last. "You're just a researcher." I clicked open their files. "Actually, I've been overseeing administrative operations for 5 years. We've acquired 3 hospitals, including yours." Their faces drained of color. "I'm now reviewing all surgical privileges. Starting today." "You can't do this," Victoria snapped. "We're family." I tilted my head. "And yet, at the reunion, you didn't seem to think that counted for much." "It was a joke," Michael stammered. "We didn't mean." I swiveled my screen toward them. "Michael, your surgical complication rate has tripled in the last month. 3 major incidents." "Explain that." He paled. "They were complex cases. And Victoria," I turned to her, "your patient satisfaction scores are some of the worst in your department. You might want to focus on care, not couture." She reached for her phone. "I'll call Uncle Thomas." I smiled. "You mean the former chief of surgery?" "His retirement was finalized last week. I arranged a generous exit package, since we're family." Victoria lowered the phone slowly. No more laughter now. Just quiet. And the sound of reality settling in. The weight of reality finally seemed to settle on their shoulders. The familiar world of nepotism, privilege, and mockery was collapsing, and in its place stood the cousin they'd once dismissed, now holding all the power. "What do you want?" Victoria asked, her voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. I leaned forward, choosing my words carefully. "What I've always wanted, excellence in patient care. You have 3 months to improve your numbers, regular reviews, extra training, and," I paused, letting the silence stretch, "no more special treatment because of our last name." "And if we refuse?" Michael challenged, his bravado weak. I picked up my phone, typing a quick message. "Then I make calls to other hospitals. County General is always looking for surgeons, though the pay might not cover homes in your neighborhood." The next family gathering was different. My aunt's backyard felt quieter, the usual medical bravado replaced by hushed conversations and uncertain glances. Victoria and Michael had spent the last 3 months focusing, really focusing, on their patients instead of their status. Surprisingly, they were better for it. I arrived late, fresh from a board meeting. As I walked through the garden, people parted like the Red Sea. Amazing how quickly power could shift perspective. "Sarah," my father approached, his face tinged with discomfort. "We haven't really talked since you learned your failed doctor runs the largest medical network in the state." I finished for him. He winced, but didn't look away. "I deserve that. I should have supported you." "Yes, you should have," I said, accepting a glass of wine from a passing server. "But it's not about support anymore, Dad, it's about real change." I caught sight of Victoria across the lawn, actually mentoring a young resident instead of flaunting her designer watch. Michael, too, was deep in a discussion with a colleague, focused on patient care, not his own glory. "They're different," Dad observed quietly, following my gaze. "Amazing what happens when people have to earn their positions," I said, my tone almost light. Uncle Thomas approached, his retirement watch gleaming in the sun. "Sarah, got a minute?" We walked to a quieter corner of the garden, away from the bustle of the party. "The changes you've made at Metropolitan," he began, "they're working, patient outcomes are better." Even Victoria and Michael, he shook his head in disbelief. "I didn't see this coming." "They're good doctors," I said simply, "they just needed to remember why they became doctors in the first place." "I was wrong about you," he admitted, eyes meeting mine with genuine respect. "We all were. Running a hospital isn't just about surgery, it's about leadership, vision, and research," I added, offering a faint smile. He chuckled. "Yes, and research." The party carried on around us, but the dynamics had irrevocably shifted. No more mockery, no more hierarchy, just medical professionals, focused on what really mattered, patient care. My phone buzzed. "James, emergency at Metropolitan. Dr. Thompson needs surgical approval." I stepped away to make the call, Victoria answering almost instantly. Sarah, I've got a complex cardiac case. The previous surgeon refused because of the risk, but I've reviewed everything. I know I can help this patient. I listened as she spoke, noting the confidence in her voice. It wasn't arrogance, this was earned expertise. Send me the files, I said, voice calm. I'll review them right away. Thank you, she said, her voice catching slightly. And Sarah, I'm sorry for everything. After reviewing the case, I called her back. She answered immediately. Dr. Thompson, I said, my tone formal. This is Dr. Sarah Morrison, Chief of Operations. Your surgical request is approved. Good luck. Later that evening, I received another message from James. Surgery successful. The patient will live. I stood by my window, the city lights stretching out below me. On my desk, a new family photo from the reunion sat proudly. No white coats, no forced hierarchy, just family, real family. My assistant knocked, breaking the moment. Dr. Morrison, the board is waiting for your presentation on the new research wing. I gathered my papers, pausing for a brief moment at the door. My nameplate caught the light. Dr. Sarah Morrison, Chief of Operations and Research Director. Sometimes success isn't about proving others wrong. Sometimes it's about showing them a better way. And sometimes, just sometimes, family can learn to change. As I walked to the boardroom, my phone buzzed with one final message from Victoria. Patient recovering well, thank you, boss. I smiled. In the end, being a real doctor wasn't about titles or specialties. It was about making a difference, whether in an operating room or a boardroom. And in the end, I had taught my family the most important medical lesson. Healing isn't just about fixing bodies. Sometimes it's about fixing broken systems, broken perspectives, and even broken families.